edition of Full Court Press. I'm your host, Courtney Mims, and thank you guys so much for enjoying the show. I know last week a lot of people were like, Courtney, where was the episode? Come on, we're waiting for another episode. I promised I would have a very special guest on. He couldn't join me a few weeks back, but he can now, and you know him, you love him, former Hog Dusty Hannas. And Dusty, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. But first of all, I want to explain to people what went on a few weeks back when I was like, hey, I have a really special guest. We couldn't do that because you were playing in the G League Winter Showcase. How was that?
Yeah. So I wasn't planning on it. I got a text from my agent on Tuesday morning, and he was like, I think it's a good idea. The team only needs you for the showcase, and then, you know, they can waive you after. Because there's a clock that starts. Like, I have to clear waivers for 2 weeks to be able to go back overseas once the team waives me. So, you know, it just made sense because I've been home a little bit from my last gig. I've been in litigation with the team. It's just honestly been a mess of a year. I'm ready for the new year. But yeah, I went and played with this team, and it was Mexico City Capitanes, and played 2 games, played well. So I think that'll get me a deal I like overseas. So I didn't get to practice with the team at all. I literally had to do medicals and blood work for like 2 days. And then Friday, I just showed up to the locker room and was like, what's up, guys? I'm playing with y'all 2 games. So it went good, though.
I know Hog fans are happy to hear that. You've also been doing some broadcasting as well. I mean, I think we saw you doing a few games as an analyst, right, this season. So you've been able to watch the Hogs, too, a lot.
Yeah, I never really miss any Hog basketball games. Like, it's like very rare for me to miss a game. But yeah, I did the Lipscomb game, the first game of the year. I enjoyed it. And, you know, being able to get paid to sit courtside at a Hog game, I couldn't turn that down. So I enjoyed it. Brett Dolan was great. It was a good experience.
I know there's a lot of fans going, yeah, a lot of us wouldn't turn that down. We're super jealous that you got to do that. And I'm sure you got to watch that Oakland game last night for the Hogs. Let's talk about that and dive into what happened in that game with the Razorbacks. If you watch that first half, you may have turned it off after the first half going, dang, really? This is too close for comfort. You know, again, I know a lot of people who were going, what's going on? What's going on? Well, then you might have seen the second half and go, wait, what happened? The Hogs woke up. They beat Oakland 92-62. The final score really not telling you the entirety of that game. Look, what I liked about this game, Dusty, when I was asked about it later on, was seeing some guys step up for the Razorbacks. With injuries this year, we know that has been such an issue for this year's Razorback squad. I think over the past 13 games in non-conference play, they've had at least one player out for every single one of those contests. Last night, they had John L. Davis out for that one, or Nelly Davis. He was dealing with that wrist injury that we know that he's been dealing with for this season. And then you also had Jonas Adu, which we didn't know this during the game or before the game, but after the game, Coach Cal saying that he was a little bit under the weather as well, but he still played him. I just thought it was cool to see guys like Carter Knox step up and Billy Richmond as well. They're going to need those guys in SEC play. What did you take away from the matchup?
Yeah, I thought the first half was slow, but, you know, Oakland's always historically had really good offensive teams. Like, I know a lot of players that came out of there. Kay Felder was really good. They've always had some big-time shooters go through the program. But, you know, when a shooter's moving, and they had a good big man too, that big man was a problem there early. But when you have all those shooting sets and shooters running around screens and stuff, the defense, it becomes easy for it to get displaced a little bit. But I thought they adjusted well at halftime. And like, as you see, like the most positive takeaway I had was Boogie starts out pretty cold, and he's just able to turn it on. And that's, you know, that's just him. He's an elite pro. I think he'll be a great NBA player. And that's the fun part. You know, now we have fun NBA players rolling through, and like Musk kind of started that. And then now, you know, Calipari's kind of taken it another level. So it's looking like the team's starting to get their feet under them and get that chemistry going.
You're exactly right. We're going to talk a little bit about the team overall a little bit later on. But like you kind of mentioned there in the first half, Oakland was giving them problems. And especially when you look at points in the paint, they were doing everything they wanted when it came to inside. And so 30 points in the paint for Oakland in the first half, but Arkansas adjusted going into that second half, and then they limited them to 12 points in the paint, which Coach Cal said, what does that do for you? It makes them shoot on the outside, on the perimeter. What the adjustments that this team has been able to make in non-conference play have been really good. Do you see that being something that's helpful later on down the line in SEC play? I feel like if you play teams really close in the first half, like you did against Oakland, may get you in a hole when you play better talent like Tennessee, for instance, or Kentucky or Florida. Those challenges are coming, and they're coming up quick.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Obviously, you don't want to, have glaring problems in the first half that could get you in a big hole, because those teams at the SEC, I mean, especially this year, I think 10 of the 16 are ranked currently, and the other 6 that aren't. I mean, last time I had checked, we're all 10-2 and 9. There's no like team that looks bad. So, yeah, you have to be on your on your A game every night in the SEC this year. So, I think that just the level of talent, like, I don't want to say sometimes as a college athlete you do play down, but I think that does happen. Like, that's human nature sometimes. To where they know, like you saw Boogie, that some of them just have a gear they can turn on that other players can't turn on. And I just think with the athleticism and length that this team has, their defense is going to be great. It's just if we're making shots and the chemistry it's still building, it's going to be a tough team to beat. Thiero's been amazing. Jonas Idu starting to get his legs under him after being out with injury for quite a while. And, if John L's wrist gets better and they can all start to, be a cohesive unit, I think we've got a really good team.
You mentioned there, if they're 100% healthy, that's something I've been saying a lot on this show. And if people are watching, they know that feels like every week I'm going, okay, if this team is 100% healthy, they're super dangerous. Did you see that as a problem early on for this Coach Cal team, especially when he went out and said, before the season started, he didn't want, 13 scholarship players. He wanted 9 or 10, and that was going to be his guys. Did you kind of foresee that could be an issue later on down the line? I mean, you obviously want to focus on a smaller rotation, right? And if you look up and down college basketball right now, you're not seeing a lot of teams play 9, 10 guys. You're seeing them play 7 or 8 guys. And so do you kind of feel like, okay, you get what he was doing there, but maybe in SEC play this could be a problem? Just what are your thoughts there, being a former college player?
I mean, it's just like you said, your rotation. He's right. Your rotation's never gonna get deeper than 9, 10 players. Like, very, very rare. So I think it's just bad luck. Like, a lot of guys getting hurt like that. It's more just a bad luck thing. I wouldn't say it's roster management problem. It's if any team in the country has 5 or 6 guys out most of the summer and in the fall and barely get to practice, like, y'all saw how they struggle early on, because when I was in college, all we did was play pickup all summer. Like, that was all you could with the rules. We literally play 5-6 days a week. We're playing with each other 5-on-5. Chemistry's great. By fall practice, you're already a unit, and they had to skip that factor. So that's still something that they're going through right now. So that's why I think this team is a team that's going to peak in February, March, and that's where you want to peak. So no, I don't think it was a roster management issue. I think it was just bad luck that, a couple, fractured bones and whatever the injuries were. That it's just bad luck. Hopefully it's never a thing again,
Yeah, I think a lot of fans are sitting there going, yeah, we hope it's never a thing again either. I think I even tweeted out last night, kind of as a joke, look, all I wanted for Christmas is just like one game where this team is 100% healthy. Is that too much to ask? Come on. Like, is that too much to ask? I appreciate you, though, giving your perspective on that, because a lot of people, that has been a criticism of what Coach Cal did this year. And he even said, give him credit. He did say, look, I may have to reevaluate how I do things next year. I thought I may have to reevaluate my roster management next year and kind of look at that. So he is even admitting himself, like, hey, we may need some more depth. So, but talking about the players that they do have and the guys that stepped up, who is someone that you like on this year's team? You kind of mentioned Boogie Flan there, Adu Thero. Who is someone that you think could be real dangerous in SEC play for the Hogs?
I mean, I can't really pick a favorite. I'm even biased here for all Razorbacks, but obviously, I was a scorer, am a scorer. I love Boogie's game, and I mean he can pass it too. I just love how he moves, how he operates in the pick and roll, his demeanor, everything. He can really shoot it too. I knew he was an elite slasher, but when I saw him the first time in the gym shooting, I'm like, oh wow, this kid's got it all. But I really like all the players. DJ Wagner, I think, is a really heady IQ guy that he knows where to be, knows how to get his teammates going. He communicates well. But the person I'm most happy for, I would say, is Trayvon Brazil. I mean, he really, you can tell this coaching staff has told him this is what's going to get you paid in the NBA, is being a dog, playing hard, showing your athleticism, shooting open threes, and I mean he's doing it. Like you can feel his impact in the game every game since he's in the past 6-7 games. It's like he's been the X factor on the floor. So I've been really happy with him.
I'm glad you mentioned Trevin because he is a guy that I think deserves a lot more credit. He's kind of been sneakily, like you said, I mean, someone that has been a huge impact player for them. I mean, and no hate to John Rothstein, but he tweeted out, look, Jonas Adu has 9 blocks through the last 4 games for the Hogs. And I said, I'll do you one better. Trevin Brazil has 15 through the last 4 games. I mean, he had 6 against Oakland. I mean, do you think he's starting to, I mean, he's obviously looking better and better each and every game, but do you think he's starting to realize, look, I am a big guy. I can be multifaceted for this team and starting to understand that role a little bit deeper?
Yeah. I just think, like I was saying, the coaches, I think, have done a great job of communicating because you see how many NBA players that this staff has produced. It's incredible. And I think, and I agree with them. His role in the NBA, if he is an energy guy that can make threes, they'll pay guys like that so much money. So I think he's just really embraced it. And honestly, I probably with his leg, I think he's got confidence, like he's gaining confidence in his body and basketball wise with the staff and the team. And I've been really pleased with how he's looked. He's definitely played himself back into being an NBA prospect again.
And I think that's honestly why he came back. I think that is honestly why he decided. I mean, you can talk to that, but a lot of people were like, oh, good, we get him back for another year. Some people were like, I don't want to see him back. There was some mixed feelings there, but it was good to see him decide to come back for another season. He wanted that development under this coaching staff. I mean, there's a lot of players out right now that would like to play for Coach Cal and this staff that don't have the opportunity to. And so he did. He fought for that opportunity and he got it. I think 100%. All the flowers and the love for Trevin Brazil. I hope to keep seeing him get better and better through SEC play. Dusty, transition here. Let's talk about SEC play. You just mentioned how tough the league is. I mean, top to bottom. You can't even say that there's a really, really a bad team. Everybody is going to play you on any given night in that league. And Arkansas starts off with some tough opponents. One of them being the number 1 team in the nation, the Tennessee Volunteers. They do not play them at home. They go to Knoxville to take on Rick Barnes and his squad. What do you feel about that matchup? Any thoughts there on how the Hogs might do against Tennessee based on what you've seen from them this year as well?
I haven't gotten to watch much of Tennessee. I mean, they're number 1, right?
They are number 1. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, very sneaky. Auburn's number 2, though, and I've said it multiple times. I mean, you can interchange them. That's just like they're both that good.
Well, Rick Barnes is a great coach. I've always admired and respected him. And with his teams, they just play good basketball. That's the simplest way to put it. They don't take a bunch of bad shots. Like you might have one guy like, I'm sure Dalton Connect could have a couple bad attempts last year and he's going to stay in the game, but mostly like Barnes doesn't believe in like volume shooting. He puts out shot makers, right decision makers, people that play hard, that get it. And with young teams that can be dangerous because they're usually not gonna beat themselves up too much. Like a young team might have bonehead errors here and there, and things of that nature. And usually his teams don't. So if you can, try to win the turnover battle, attack the glass, and really go at his teams, that's the best way to beat them. And obviously making shots, like making 3-pointers, that that cures a lot of bad. But that's going to be a tough game. I don't think I ever lost at Tennessee, so hopefully maybe that's been a trend of the last years or something, and we can go get us one.
Yeah, I know a lot of Hog fans love hearing that positivity from you there. It's just interesting to watch too, because you look at the SEC this year, and Dusty, you know this. It's just you might have teams getting into the NCAA tournament this year, SEC teams that maybe win 7 games in conference play and still make the tournament. That is just crazy. I mean, people are talking about, 10 SEC teams can make the tournament this year. I maybe think it might be 11 or 12. Yeah. I mean, it truly is crazy to see how good and how head and shoulders above the rest of the competition that the SEC is. I mean, just the league as a whole. I mean, do you think Arkansas, I mean, if they go above 500, that's impressive, right? I mean, just what do you think about the conference as a whole?
It's crazy to see where it's come. I guess my last year was 8 years ago, and I think we were 3 or 4 bids. It was South Carolina, us, and Kentucky. I don't know if maybe Florida that year too, but just like wasn't ever a high bid league like this, and now for it to gotten to this point, it's cool to see. I'm a big SEC guy, so as far as my conference bias, I like to see it. But yeah, for your team, it is tough because all SEC schools have great road home crowds, so your road games are going to be tough, like any conference. But I feel like SEC is a little amped up. SEC people get rowdy at games, and it's just honestly going to be fun that now from here on, any game you tune into for the Hogs or any team in the SEC, it's going to be a game. Like there's probably not going to be many blowouts, and it's just turned into one of the premier conferences, which is wild to see from my time to now.
And it feels like, 8 years. I mean, that's crazy to think about, but like just how it's just happened in the last few years. I mean, that it's just mind-boggling to have so many people go, yeah, I can't wait to watch this SEC basketball game, when, a few years ago that wouldn't have been the case. And so I love to see it as well as an SEC guy myself. It's just really, really cool to see. And you kind of felt like it was heading there, honestly. The way the SEC basketball has stepped up and been played over the last few years, and the level of talent they now have at all of these teams, it's just crazy. I mean, I was looking up and down the other day. I mean, you just can't overlook anybody. You can't overlook an LSU or even South Carolina, who's the bottom of the league. You just cannot overlook anybody. No. So it's going to be really tough conference play, and every coach knows that. Coach Cal said it's going to be a gauntlet for them. Dusty, let's wrap things up here with just some of your thoughts, generally on the team this year. A lot of people are excited, and we're excited when Coach Cal was hired, and are excited to see where this program can go. Looking at overall this Arkansas team, you just said it, their ceiling is high. You think they can go far, maybe make a really good run in the NCAA tournament. What do you think needs to happen still for this team to do well in conference play and make a tournament run?
Just all the time spent with guys injured, just getting that time back on the floor is really number one for this team. Like, just the more minutes they play together, that's going to be priority number one and the most important thing. But as far as a team, it's just, everyone having one common goal, everyone sharing, making the extra pass, a bunch of hockey assists, like just playing the right way, because they have guys that can play make, they got guys that can shoot, play defense, like they've got everything you need. It's just going to be about, all the players buying in on a game to game basis, and just never thinking, myself, just thinking like, what can I do to make the Hogs win the game? And that's what SEC play is all about. Is it's not always going to be your night. It might be someone else's night, but as long as your team wins, that's what we're all in it for. So as long as everyone keeps that mindset, I think they're going to be just fine.
You say just fine. Do you think how far do you think this team could go in the NCAA tournament? Do you think a Final Four is out of the question? I mean, no. How far do you think they can go?
Of course not. I mean, I think they definitely have a Final Four roster. They've got everything, like everything you need to advance in March. They have, and like I've been saying with their chemistry, if they click February, March, that's right when you need to be clicking, and you need to win 6 games, and that's it. Like, you just one game at a time, win 6 games. So I think they have that ability to win a national championship. I think there's the parity level in the SEC and even in the country. Like, there's a lot of teams that have the ability to do it. So it's really just who gets hot at the right time, and I think all signs point to them being hot at the right time.
You hope so. That you really, really hope so. Thank you so much, Dusty, for coming on the show. Really, really appreciate you for taking the time. Arkansas does open up SEC play this Saturday. Like we said, against number 1 Tennessee. We will see what happens in that matchup. Again, thank you so much, Dusty, for coming on Full Court Press. Really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year to all our viewers as well. We'll see you next week for another edition of Full Court Press.